If you haven't seen by now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have officially announced that they will be signing Mike McCarthy to a 5-year deal to be their next head coach. We're going to cover the bad, the ugly, and, for lack of a better term, the good. The first thing, though, that I want to get out of the way is this chart. I woke up at 4 today. No, not 4 a.m., but a 4 on the 5 stages of grief. I'm sitting at currently depression. And I do encourage you in times like this as a Steelers fan to reach out to your loved ones. Don't forget there are people in your life that are important, and there are still things to get excited about, even if it is not the Pittsburgh Steelers. Feel free to use the comment section in this video as a form of venting and community as we all come together and react to the direction that the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to go in. Now, the first thing I want to cover with this news is simply the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers truly felt like they didn't give the other coaches a shot. And what I mean by that is there was a list of names that the Steelers had requested to interview, names that were exciting and had Steelers fans thinking, wow, we might do something different here. The Steelers started off things hot with their head coaching search. They requested interviews with guys like Nate Scheelhaase, Chris Shula, and Kubiak, to name a few. I don't think anyone in Steelers Nation expected to get news yesterday that they had already decided on the future of their head coaching position. Why did most people not expect that? Because the people that the Steelers requested to interview, a substantial amount of those teams are still in the playoffs, which means that they could not actually do a formal in-person interview until those teams either were out of the playoff hunt or post a Super Bowl win. I'll tell you my story right now. I was knocked out for an hour taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon before being awoken with a startle to the group chat between my family members and friends firing off about how the Steelers had already made their decision to hire Mike McCarthy. And I think it's an important question to ask and just ponder at this point. Why did the Steelers feel a rush to go ahead and sign Mike McCarthy? Was there a lot of competition for his services? I highly doubt it. There was actually a tweet a few days prior to this breaking news about how Mike McCarthy was turning down other opportunities because he was only interested in coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, hearing something like this, you might assume, wow, the ball is in the Steelers' court. They don't have to rush this thing. They can do their due diligence and talk to the other candidates that they have shown an interest in. You would be wrong for making that assumption. I can't sit here and tell you why the Steelers didn't even give Nate and Chris Shula and Kubiak a chance to get into the building. Perhaps the virtual interviews did just go that poorly, but I highly doubt it. This reeks of a decision from an owner who just 8 days ago I made a video about saying perhaps he is awake. Perhaps Tomlin stepping down has awoken Art Rooney II and lit a fire under him. Boy, was I wrong, and how dare I assume that someone who was born into being a millionaire/billionaire and owner of a historic franchise would ever feel any type of real motivation or desire to do anything other than the status quo. Now that I've called out and stated the obvious and asked you to ponder that, let's move on to the differences about this Pittsburgh Steelers head coaching hire, because we did all want change, right? Including me. And for better or worse, oh boy, did we get it. So, all the Steelers' past head coach hires have checked the following boxes at the time of hiring. They never had prior head coaching experience, they were under the age of 40 years old, and they were defensive-minded and came from defensive backgrounds. Yay us. McCarthy is 62, has been a head coach twice, and is offensive-minded. What, you're not happy? Well, lucky for us, this is where the differences end. You see, over the course of Tomlin's career, and I should make a caveat here, Tomlin is no longer a part of the Steelers organization. He didn't even give a departing press conference. Tomlin is ready to move on, and I'll just say I appreciate the success that we saw under him, and I think it was best for both sides that they depart. So please do not take me comparing Tomlin's stats to Mike McCarthy as anything other than me trying to just explain that potentially the Steelers are exactly right back where they started. Tomlin's win percentage over the course of his career was 62%. A very admirable number. He had 193 wins, 114 losses, and 2 ties. Tomlin's postseason record stood at 11-11, a clean 50%. So with these stats in mind, I want us to pivot and look at McCarthy's career since 2017. For me, I feel like about 9 to 10 years is a good window for us to explore what Mike McCarthy has done. So I wanted to distill it down into a smaller scope so that we can compare what the recent Mike McCarthy experience has been and how that might translate to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So here is the high-level Mike McCarthy experience season by season from 2017 all the way up to the last time he was employed as a head coach in 2024. In 2017, as Green Bay's head coach, they missed the playoffs at 7-9. In 2018, they went 4-7-1 before he was fired in Week 13 after a loss to the Arizona Cardinals. In 2019, McCarthy took a year off from coaching, and in 2020, he joined the Dallas Cowboys and missed the playoffs, going 6-10. In 2021, the Dallas Cowboys were one and done in the playoffs, losing to the 49ers in the wild card round after going 12-5 that year. In 2022, the Dallas Cowboys won their wild card game and then lost the following week to the 49ers in the divisional round after going 12-5. In 2023, the Cowboys were once again one and done in the playoffs, losing in the wild card round to none other than the Green Bay Packers after having gone again 12-5. And in 2024, the Dallas Cowboys missed the playoffs after going 7-10. Now, I'm not going to rehash and remind the all too recent experience of what the Pittsburgh Steelers have looked like in their last 7 playoff appearances, but I think you can understand the point that I'm trying to make and the comparison that is maybe all too familiar for us as Steelers fans, which is that Mike McCarthy led teams with Aaron Rodgers in his prime and Dak Prescott in his prime have not exactly led to the most success or the type of success you would hope from a head coach who already has franchise quarterbacks on their roster. Now, Mike McCarthy is heralded as an offensive guru, and I will put that in quotation marks. His style of play design can be described as your traditional West Coast style offense. I do want us to look at the offensive production from a Mike McCarthy-led team over the course of the last 8 or so seasons. So in 2017 with the Green Bay Packers, they finished 21st in total points per game. In 2018, it was 14th, and then 2019, once again, he took a year off of coaching. In 2020, once he joined the Dallas Cowboys, they finished 17th. In 2021, to his credit and the credit of the Dallas Cowboys in general, they finished first, followed by 4th in 2022, and then first again in 2023, which then led to them finally finishing 21st in 2024, which was again Mike McCarthy's last year as a head coach to date. Now, certainly you can look at these numbers over the course of 2020 to 2023 and say that's an impressive resume, which I can't disagree or argue with. And then I just decided to take one extra step and look at where the Dallas Cowboys finished in points per game in 2025. Because my thought process here was, if he is such an offensive guru and he really does have such a deep level of impact, I would hope to see a stark and dramatic drop off from the time that Mike McCarthy was leading the Dallas Cowboys offense to the time that he was not there anymore. And I do regret to inform you that the Dallas Cowboys offense in 2025 ranked 7th overall in points per game. And it kind of just brings me back to this idea that there is a sentiment or perhaps a belief out there amongst certain people that he is an offensive guru. But when you go ahead and look at the QBs that he has had the chance to be a head coach for, it's really hard to not just feel like he might have one of the luckiest runs ever. He got to be the offensive mastermind and thought leader behind teams that were driven by Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and Dak Prescott. And again, this might sound like I'm undermining his resume, but we need to keep in mind the reality of the situation. Mike McCarthy, for the first time in his career, is coming to a team that has no idea what they are going to do at the quarterback position. There have been reports that he is excited about the potential of Will Howard, which is fine. I know a lot of Steelers fans are, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But if we are going to sit here and pretend like the hype around Will Howard or the talent level coming out of the draft is comparable to that of an Aaron Rodgers or even a Dak Prescott, we are sitting here and deluding ourselves more than I could have even ever possibly imagined. So why do I think the Pittsburgh Steelers hired Mike McCarthy? I think it starts with Art Rooney II. I think the Steelers have this deep desire to be somewhat of a Disney movie. They like a good narrative, they like a good headline, and they like a feel-good story. And Mike McCarthy is a lifelong Pittsburgh native, born and raised in the city's Greenfield neighborhood. He grew up a devoted fan of the 1970s Steelers dynasty with deep local roots, including his father, who was a Pittsburgh firefighter, who also happened to own a bar, which certainly was the root cause of this beautiful AI image of Mike McCarthy in a Pittsburgh bar, shared to us by the great and wonderful Tom Pelissero. And Mike McCarthy had experience working as a toll collector on the Pennsylvania Turnpike while coaching at Pitt. What does any of this mean? What does it have to do with being a good head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that is in desperate need of a new direction and a change in philosophy? I have absolutely no idea. I think I should just sign off by saying this. If this had happened 15 years ago, this story and this narrative might have moved me in some type of way. But having experienced what we have as Steelers fans over the last decade, it's extremely hard for me to buy into another feel-good story. I quite frankly am at an impasse here where all I want is for the Steelers to be a good football team again, be respected amongst the rest of the teams in the NFL, find a franchise quarterback, and please, for the love of God, win a playoff game. I don't care about where the head coach came from. I don't care that he's a Pittsburgh native. I don't care that he was a fan of the team that we all love. None of that matters to me at all at this point. In my opinion, it's tiresome, it's boring, and it's played out. Now, does any of that mean that Mike McCarthy might not fix the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is it possible that he could turn Will Howard into the next Tom Brady? Is it possible that even if he doesn't and we have a down year, the Pittsburgh Steelers don't turn around and draft a Hall of Fame future franchise quarterback? Absolutely it is, of course. There's always a possibility. But in my mind, the Pittsburgh Steelers did the one thing that would have kept them as close to the Mike Tomlin experience it has been as possible, and went out and broke all their rules, yes, but did it in order to hire the most predictable candidate and the one that is most likely to bring them another 5 years of pure and painful mediocrity. Do I hope the best for Mike McCarthy? Of course I do. I'm still a fan at heart. I want to see the Steelers succeed. Do I hope all of our initial assumptions are wrong and that he turns this franchise around and sets us off in a new and positive direction? Of course. But right now, I think for most of us, it's extremely hard to see that happening, and it just feels like we are stuck in the mud, spinning our wheels once again. So those are my thoughts: the good, the bad, the ugly, and the why. The why of why the Pittsburgh Steelers did this. We probably all should have seen this coming a lot more than we did. But please, let me know your thoughts. Is your reaction positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral? I'm interested in hearing about it, so leave it in the comments. And thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Until next time, guys.